Sati dynasty, the 26th dynasty. Now, the Satis oversee a mini renaissance of indigenous traditions and ancient spiritual beliefs. They look back to the glory days of the Old and Middle Kingdom as a way to improve the Egyptian economy and as a way to inspire their artistic religious representations. Now, a statue from this period, we have one, a statue of Isis. This is circa 550 BC. This statue showcases this artistic and spiritual rebirth. The statue was found in Saqqara in 1863, inside the tomb of a scribe. And the divine image of the goddess was left intact and undisturbed for 2,500 years. Now, this statue, well, Isis is seated in the guise of a queen, with the crown of Upper and Lower Egypt, the uraeus, resting on her head. So she's in throne position, so to speak. Now, in art from the 26th dynasty, Isis is sometimes assimilated with the goddess Hathor, and her attributes, the attributes of Hathor, imagery of Hathor, like two cow horns framing the solar disk. This comes from Hathor, but you see it a lot in Isis from this period. Now, her position in this case is the traditional one, sitting down, and harkens back to the days of the Old Kingdom. Her hands are placed on her knees, and her right hand is holding the Ankh, the Isis knot, the symbol of life and eternity. Now, this particular stone here, a particular black stone known as schist stone, it's an excellent state of preservation, and its shiny surface creates a precise aesthetic effect. The curves are smooth, and the black shiny stone, it reflects those curves. It forms those curves because it's outlined by light. This reflected luminosity appears to be given off by the statue or stone itself. It's really a remarkable work of art. Now, the face of Isis is delicate, and she gazes at us in a graceful expression, an expression that looks beyond the human sphere, looks beyond the human realm of understanding. As I mentioned, this is really a remarkable statue, a remarkable work of art. Now, the schist stone and the technique used makes it clear that the artist was invoking or emulating the power and glory of an earlier age. Now, sadly, the Seite, the 26th dynasty, did not rule for very long. Now, essentially, during this dynasty, the male pharaohs were rather weak, and Egypt was held together by a remarkable woman, a great princess, Anke Seneferibe, a priestess of Isis, who was the real power behind the throne, and held administrative office for the entire length of the dynasty, well over 60 years. Her Egypt was constantly threatened by Assyrian, Babylonian, and Scythian expansion and military activity. And Egypt was no match for the awesome military might of the Persian Empire. And in 525 BC, Cambyses II, the king of Persia, emperor or whatever, invades and conquers Egypt. Now, the Persians easily enter Egypt across the desert because they're advised by defecting Egyptian generals, traders, and they also employ Bedouin tribesmen as guides. Well, they soon take charge of the country, lickety-split, so to speak. Now, the Persian dynasty, Darius, Xerxes, and Artaxerxes, 1, 2, and 3, take a close interest in the internal affairs and administration of Egypt, but they rule the land from the Persian capital, Susa. They rule it like absentee landlords, leaving a satrap, a viceroy, or governor in control. Now, there's periodic outbreaks, periodic rebellions, periodic revolt that breaks out, and the Egyptians are able to take advantage of the murderous internal family problems of the Persian dynasty, the Achaemenid dynasty. And the Egyptians managed to maintain a type of quasi-independence as the princes and guerrilla war generals become the new vassal pharaohs of Egypt, beholding to the Persians. This is Dynasty 28 and 29, I believe. They start new building projects. They also maintain traditions like the cult of Apis, the sacred bull, and the cult of Isis. Now, the Persians, however, stomped their foots down and established tyrannical rule in Egypt once more. The reign of Nekhtenebo II comes to an end. He's the last Egyptian pharaoh, and he will be the last Egyptian to actually rule over Egypt for 2,300 years, till the 1952 revolution. So there's no Egyptian ruling Egypt for over 2 millennia. Now, in 323 BC, give or take, Alexander the Great enters the picture. And Mazaeus, the satrap viceroy for Persian King Darius III, wisely decides to open the gates of Egypt to Alexander and his army, saving both Egypt and his own skin. Mazaeus gets a reward. He gets a high office position in Babylon. Now, Alexander enters Egypt and makes his way to the Oracle of Atum, at the oasis in Oiwa. The Egyptians look upon him as a divine being, a savior, who restores and repairs the temples that were devastated or destroyed under Persian tyrannical rule. For example, the Holy of Holies at Luxor is rebuilt with reliefs, busts of Alexander carved into the outer walls that show him making offerings to Amun-Ra. Alexander is hailed as the son of Amun-Ra and the pharaoh incarnate. He then starts to build the city of Alexandria, the first city among many, and leaves the Persian civil service infrastructure in place. This guy knew how to rule. Now, Egypt is now part of a much wider and greater Aegean/Mediterranean world, a wider world of religions and culture. From Egypt, Alexander moves into Asia Minor, and in an extraordinary series of battles and campaigns, conquers first Babylon, then Susa. He conquers the Persians as well, and extends his empire all the way into the Indus River Valley region, India. The Alexandrian dream is now in sight. What is the Alexandrian dream, you may ask? Well, it's one world, one people, all under Alexander, of course. But he dies in Babylon from a fever, possibly from being poisoned. We're not quite sure why he died. The Great One is succeeded by his half-witted half-brother, Philip Aridaeus, who is the new pharaoh. Philip leaves behind a relief sculpture of himself at the central shrine at Karnak, with the priests of Amun carrying the sacred bark on their shoulders. Philip is murdered in 317 BC. Alexander's son from his Persian wife Roxanne, Alexander IV, then becomes pharaoh of Egypt. He is also murdered, along with his mother. This happens sometime between 311 and 305 BC. We're not quite sure when. He's killed by General Cassander, who then goes back to Europe. He is now the ruler of the European third of Alexander's empire. This is, of course, a deliberate and strategic withdrawal that leaves Ptolemy, a boyhood friend of Alexander and the satrap viceroy/governor for the Great One's half-witted half-brother, as well as Alexander's son,